obviously another full week here. Merrimack's a team that has really a terrific, unique style of play. Their zone is outstanding. They've got aggressive guards. They're disciplined. They obviously had a great year last year. Many people know of the Purdue first round game against Fairleigh Dickinson. That was a byproduct of the Merrimack team not qualifying for the NCAA tournament, even though they won the league championship and had the longest consecutive wins streak for really heading into this year. So it's a good program, good team, used to winning, having success, and like I said, aggressive guards, got good size, and they're just really disruptive and active in their zone. So got to continue to prepare well for them here today.
Watching them against Maine and the way that they do kind of alternate almost, it seems like up top, like trying to keep track of who goes where was difficult just on the broadcast. Like, what are some of the keys to getting through that and getting your guys into spots where every zone has a weakness, trying to get guys past that initial line of pressure?
Yeah, I think it's unique. It's almost like they're forcing you to play left-handed, and they're just unique, in that you see zones on occasion, and they're well coached in terms of their zone principles. In a lot of ways, they do a great job coaching them, making sure they're active. They play it really hard, and they're disruptive. They're really disruptive. So I think it's you obviously can practice against it, but it does take a little bit of a feel at them once you get in the game. There's going to be a little bit of that where it takes you a minute to get a feel, and we'll prepare them as well as we can. And I think we've had good preparation, but there's an element of when you see it, you're going to see it every possession for 40 minutes. I think that's part of the reason why they've gotten so good at it, is it's their staple and it's what they do.
I know that, I'm sure on every team that you coach, you'd like to have a Kyle Young or EJ Liddell. Those strike me as guys that were very effective against zones, and you could get them into a little bit of space, they could make something happen. Where do you think you are on this roster, having guys that can do some of those things? Like, could Evan do some things like that, where he could be a guy that gets into a space and hits a shot? Or where do you think you are in trying to get guys against some of these zones?
Yeah, I think we're still developing that and utilizing that, and we've been really good against zones over the years, and particularly when EJ was here, because he was the best I've ever coached against the zone, in the middle of the zone, because not only could he be really accurate from 15 feet, but he also could drive you, and was so good in the middle tunnel at attacking a mismatch or attacking guys that are bigger, and he was such a quick jumper and so explosive, even though he was 6'7". He's the best I've ever coached in the middle of a zone. I think we have some guys that can grow into that and get better with that, but there's different ways. They do a good job keeping it out of the middle as well. There's different ways to attack it, and we'll look to do that. But I do think we have some guys that can grow into that. EJ he was always good in there, but his last 2 years he was just phenomenal in there.
I know Oakland was more of like a 1-1-3, and it kind of morphed into a 2-3, and I guess this is more of a 2-3 that you'll see.
Yep.
But how much does that help to have already seen a zone earlier this season? And like, how much does that factor into preparation?
I think it helps. It also gives them an idea of how we might have attacked too. So there's advantages both ways, but I think it does help for sure, just to have multiple possessions against it. And when when we scrimmaged a couple times, I particularly against Clemson, I knew we were going to see zone, so I asked to be able to play 10 to 12 possessions against it. So, but I think you got to play it. You got to continue. The guys got to get comfortable with it. But there's no question that having seen it as much as we did in the first game will hopefully help.
And we were talking to Evan, like, it's an adjustment, obviously going from one school to the next, but starting when he didn't start last year is a different role too. I guess, what do you want to see from him, both defensively but also offensively? What kind of role do you hope to get from him?
I think he's got to be a really good rebounder for us. He's got to be a really versatile defender. He's got to be able to switch 1 through 4 and challenge perimeters. He's also got to be able to guard bigger guys. And I think there'll be a time throughout the year when maybe we want to play a little bit smaller and more versatile, where we just play 2 forwards, and he's going to have to be able to guard bigger guys. So I think his greatest strength as a player is going to be being able to guard as many as 5 positions on the floor when he's really playing. And I think that's a great strength. It's a strength that a guy like Jayshawn Tate had here, where he could guard 5 positions.
When you have a player like Felix who can be such a defensive presence but has also dealt with foul trouble, how do you work through that in practice? Because obviously it's different once you get on the court and you're seeing different things, it's being called differently. How do you help him through some of that?
A lot of his fouls have come from he needs to have better awareness off the ball. He's gotten face cut a couple times, and then when he reacted and chucked the guy, he got a foul called. So I think just better awareness off the ball, better stance. Felix has done a good job being the second off the floor, and we preach that a lot for a guy like him, and he's heard us say that a million times. At his size, he needs to be the second off the floor, and when he does that, his timing's pretty good. I think there's discipline required there, but some of his fouls have come off of offensive rebound attempts, which we're okay with living with 1 or 2 of those. The ones we have to eliminate are the ones where he's out of a stance off the ball.
And just in general, how do you feel like he has adapted to starting more, kind of being that defensive stopper, so to speak, or the last line of defense?
He's got to rebound better.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got to rebound better, far better than what he has. And he knows that. He's more capable than what he's shown at rebounding the ball. And that's an area he's got to take another major step.
So just, looking back at the film, as you kind of had a weekend to process it now, what are the biggest takeaways on where you need to improve from the Texas A&M game?
Well, looking back on it, as I said after the game, I thought we did some really, really good things. And, our ability to kind of read their traps and read where the defensive help was coming from and make the right play. And, we did that far more than we didn't do it. I thought that was just a really good thing for our guys to take the game plan and implement it. I thought we had a good physicality to us for the bulk of the game. What I mentioned after the game is still true today. We've got to rebound better defensively, and we've got to be able to guard guards like that better than what we did, both in our pick and roll coverage and being connected to the ball, and then guarding isolations.
You mentioned several times, of course, the mix of styles across these first 3 games. Was there anything intentional about scheduling to get that? And I guess whether or not that's the case, is there a benefit? What is the benefit of seeing that mix of styles as the season starts?
Yeah. Not really. There wasn't anything intentional other than I thought it would test our guys in a lot of ways. I wanted to play good mid-majors, which I think we're doing here, that have, gone into places and played really well and won. And so I think we've done that. And then I think the benefit can be if we can kind of grow in our understanding of how to attack defenses and offenses.
Yeah, it seems like Zed has kind of embraced that role coming off the bench and really provided kind of like an energy boost, I guess, like kind of in the middle of the game. Like, what have you seen from him and how he's been able to, I guess, kind of embrace that role?
Yeah, he's done a good job with it, and he's a good player. There have been other examples. Travion Williams was a first-team All-League guy and came off the bench. So there's been other examples of guys who've really thrived in a role like that. But he's done a good job with it, and just has to continue to grow and continue to help impact this team. I like how he's rebounded. I think he can do it at an even higher clip. I like where his mind is right now.
And then I guess for Scotty and Devin, just first 2 games, like what are your kind of first impressions of them on the court?
Yeah, just gotta keep taking the feedback from the game, getting better, growing and learning. learn every day in practice, get better, deal with the ups and downs of being a freshman, and that's the expectation for him. And it's a very long season in college basketball, as we all know in this room. So that's the importance. Every day you're just taking that feedback and getting better.
Looks like Bruce and Roddy, I don't know if efficient is the right word, but productive. I don't know, how do you qualify it? Are you happy with their efficiency? I mean, their stats are good, but that's outside looking in. For you
Yeah.
and what you're trying to accomplish, are you happy with their efficiency through the first 2 games?
Yeah, for the most part, I think consistency is what we're looking for when you have two sophomores, and in particular Roddy, who's now in a much bigger role than what he played last year. So that's what we're really looking for, is consistency with those guys. As you guys know, it's always the sign of a good player when you're consistent, your performance is consistent, relatively consistent. So I think that's the challenge we have for those guys, is be consistent. They can certainly do a few things better, and they know that, but they've had some good moments here early in the season for sure, and some real things where you're saying, wow, those guys, if they keep getting better, can really be an important part of this particular team, and that's exciting, really, really exciting.
I mean, Roddy has been pretty good, it seems like, setting other people up, but you
Yeah.
find with his vision and his passing have
Yeah.
been much improved, I suppose, over what we saw from him last year. Just, is that an area where you're happy to see him grow and develop, I suppose?
Yeah, he's really got playmaking ability at 6'4". We've always known that about him when we recruited him. It really helps when you put him out there with guys who can shoot it, because he's almost a natural playmaker. And we know he's got the ability to shoot it and will from three. But yeah, he's done a good job, and this will test him tomorrow because they're so active in gaps. They're so active, and he's going to have to really make reads in those situations.
A couple of the other guys, I know, Bonner, Mahaffey, even Battle to a point. What maybe been the points of emphasis for those guys off the first couple games to, I don't want to say get involved, but to maybe be more productive, more supportive, just to help you make winning plays, I suppose.
Yeah,
They're veteran guys.
Yeah, some of it's been practice. They've got to do it in practice first, and they've got to do it consistently in practice. I think Evan gave us some really good minutes the other day, both defensively and offensively. I think that Jamison will continue to get more and more comfortable offensively, and he's got a rebound for us at a continued better level, Steve. And then I think Dale, some of it's a comfort thing for him, and I think he'll get there. Some of it's getting some minutes under his belt, live action. But I'm pretty confident in what all three of those guys can provide for us.
You talked about Felix being the second guy off the floor, who's trying to maybe block a shot. What sort of things are you coaching him for, as far as block the shot versus don't block the shot, go crash the boards? Like, what are the challenges of trying to do both? Because it seems like going for the shot, he could put himself out of position, obviously.
Yeah, it's a read that we work on consistently with those guys. You're reading the shoulders of the offensive player and the defensive player, so it is a defensive read. You can't just be reckless and flying around, because you're often guarding the best rebounder on the other team, or at least the biggest rebounder. So I think there's a one of the things I've always been impressed with Felix. I've talked about his rebound and needed to get much better, but he brings a really good mind to the game. I think he's a really smart kid and smart at reading situations, but that takes a minute to read the shoulders of the offensive players, the depth at which they beat the defender, and whether or not it's a rim threat that you have to challenge versus get to a lockout position.
And he was talking about watching film, and that you have to both members saying you have to understand that going over film, pointing over mistakes, it's not a personal thing. It's your coaches, your teammates are trying to get you better. How have you seen him handle like that feedback, especially as his role has grown a little bit this year, and you talked about needing more from him from on the rebounding standpoint? How has he handled some of that feedback?
Well, Felix is a beautiful kid. He's just, he is a great kid. He is a great kid. And I can't emphasize that enough. He really is. He's got a great personality. And he's coachable. He's coachable. He wants to get better. He knows he needs to play better and do some things better than what he has in the stretch, but he is a great kid. And I have absolute confidence and belief that because he's a great kid and because he wants to get better, because he's coachable, he's going to have some bright days for us for sure.
I think about the timeline for Taysom seemed to be maybe the next week or two from when you had said when where is he? You've always said he's on time, but is he?
Yeah, basically on track.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have any significant updates, but still making progress.
And do you expect like Jordan Durkak, I think that's how you say his name, to play? I know he got injured in the
Yeah,
the game.
it's a tough call. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know because I didn't call our training staff today.
Maybe you know more info than I would.
Yeah, no, I really don't. But good player for him and important because of how aggressive he is. He's a kid that rolled his ankle in the last game, so no real update on that. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Today.
Yes, sir.
Do you think you would do Tuesday next week too, or?
That's what I was planning.